It's true. Even Elvin Hayes admits it now. The man they called the Big E was labeled the most difficult player in NBA history. But after decades of silence, Hayes is finally telling his side of the story. What really happened during those turbulent early years? And how did a so-called malcontent become a Hall of Fame legend? When Elvin Hayes entered the NBA in 1968 as the first overall pick, he made an immediate impact. In his rookie season with the San Diego Rockets, Hayes achieved something historic. He led the entire league in scoring, averaging 28.4 points per game, along with 17.1 rebounds. This scoring average remains the fifth best all-time for a rookie, and Hayes is still the last rookie to lead the NBA in scoring. His offensive skills were extraordinary. Hayes developed a distinctive line drive jump shot that was nearly impossible to defend. Combined with his defensive presence modeled after Bill Russell, he showcased exceptional individual talent. In his second season, Hayes continued his dominance by leading the NBA in rebounding in 1970. This achievement broke the long-standing control of Wilt Chamberlain and Bill Russell in that category. But despite these incredible statistics, Hayes quickly developed a reputation that overshadowed his basketball achievements. As early as 1971, NBA analysts blamed the San Diego Rockets' struggles on Hayes. They labeled him a ball hog and a flawed big man. Personal attacks followed, contributing to what reporters called his low public esteem. The image of Hayes as a sullen, self-serving prima donna began to solidify during his initial years as a professional. The problems went deeper than media criticism. Hayes' individual brilliance unfolded against a backdrop of consistent team failure. In his first 3 seasons with the Rockets, he averaged 28.4, 27.5, and a career-best 28.7 points per game. Yet despite Hayes' prolific output, the San Diego Rockets continued to struggle on the floor and in the divisional standings. This created enormous pressure on Hayes. He was described as the primary hope of the Rockets to establish themselves as a successful franchise. He carried so much responsibility for the team that when they failed, despite his individual brilliance, the blame was often directed at him. The fact that the Rockets were not winning frequently, despite his league-leading scoring, rankled Hayes most. Hayes' relationships with coaches became a major source of conflict. Jack McMahon, his first coach with the Rockets, explicitly blamed Hayes for costing him his job. McMahon said Hayes suffered from an identity problem, frequently mistaking himself for the coach of the team. During a 1969 playoff game, Hayes openly criticized teammate Don Kojis, yelling at him for his defensive performance, even after McMahon had intervened. The situation got worse with Alex Hannum, who coached Hayes during what were described as his most turbulent years. Hannum held an exceptionally negative view of Hayes, famously calling him the most despicable person I've ever met in sports. Hannum also labeled Hayes as spoiled, indicating a deep personal and professional rift. When the Rockets relocated to Houston and hired Tex Winter, the pattern of conflict continued. Winter, known for his triangle offense, attempted to convert Hayes into a passing center. This strategic shift proved disastrous for Hayes, whose game was built on a score-first mentality. Hayes found his scoring average shrinking under Winter's system and experienced many difficult moments trying to understand Winter's coaching philosophy. Hayes explicitly stated, "I just wanted to do things my own way." His established score-first mentality directly conflicted with coaches' attempts to integrate him into team systems. This indicates his difficulty was not purely defiance, but a strong conviction about his highly effective playing style. Team chemistry suffered as well. The San Diego and Houston Rockets were plagued by internal challenges and persistent bickering. A significant source of friction was veteran forward Don Kojis, who spent most of a season complaining about his salary compared to Hayes' lucrative contract. Kojis became Hayes' favorite sparring partner and even kept a diary about the Rockets, with Hayes as a central figure. Hayes reportedly got wind of it, ripped up the diary, and helped create more chaos on the team. During a severe team slump in 1970, Hayes publicly branded his teammates as a bunch of losers and asked to be traded. Although he later issued an apology, stating, "If they're losers, I'm a loser also. I'm not going to cut these guys down and make myself come out smelling sweet." The initial public condemnation had already left its mark. Many teammates felt Hayes was too intent on being a one-man show. Toby Kimball, a Rockets teammate, famously observed, "It's the old story. One man can score 100 points and the team can lose the game." This perception led to questions about whether other players truly respected him. The media played a critical role in solidifying Hayes' perceived difficulty. In just his second exhibition game, after facing Nate Thurmond, Hayes engaged in what reporters called a strange catechism, meticulously comparing his individual statistics to Thurmond's, despite the Rockets losing the game. Reporters observing these incidents firsthand relayed them to the public, which rapidly led to the establishment of his sullen, self-serving, prima donna image. The media was described as damning him for 10 years, often due to his perceived inaccessibility and low-yield interviews. Media outlets frequently used harsh descriptors, variously considering him a ball hog, a rotten apple, and a guaranteed loser. But Hayes was not oblivious to the criticism. He explicitly stated that these negative perceptions gnawed and burned at him. However, sports writer Merv Harris offered a crucial counter-narrative. Harris suggested that Hayes' earnest self-promotion could easily be interpreted as bravado, but was actually a product of a boyhood spent tirelessly trying to escape suffocating poverty and obscurity. Harris argued that Hayes' frequent use of I and me pronouns was not pure egotism, but rather a plea for recognition of the effort expended to reach this plateau. Hayes was asking not for recognition personally, but for what he had done on the court. Hayes' formative years were described as isolated and insecure, an environment that shaped him into someone ambitious, distrustful at first of white faces, cautious to avoid being ridiculed, and capable of moods ranging from boyish revelry to cursing and rage. This background provides critical context for understanding his complex emotional landscape. The turning point came in 1972 when Hayes was traded from the Houston Rockets to the Baltimore Bullets. This significant transaction was widely interpreted as the Rockets dumping a malcontent. The perception was so prevalent that Bullets coach Gene Shue famously quipped at the press conference, "No, we get Elvin's psychiatrist too." However, Hayes viewed the move positively, describing himself as the most happy fella upon joining the Bullets, a team with a history of playoff contention. The trade to Baltimore marked a pivotal turning point in Hayes' career. He joined forces with fellow future Hall of Famer Wes Unseld. In Baltimore and later Washington, Hayes successfully transitioned to the power forward position, a role that allowed him to be the power forward they needed alongside Unseld at center. Bullets coach Gene Shue, while acknowledging Hayes' past attitude problems, expressed optimism that he would adjust his attitude and realize his true potential. This symbiotic partnership with Unseld proved highly successful. Playing alongside another Hall of Famer and shifting to a more defined power forward role allowed Hayes to find a more complementary position within a successful team structure. The Bullets reached 3 NBA Finals appearances in 1975, 1978, and 1979, culminating in an NBA championship victory in 1978. During the championship season, Hayes was a critical component, averaging 21.8 points and 12.1 rebounds over 21 playoff games. This success suggests that his difficulty might have been exacerbated by the immense pressure of being the sole superstar on a struggling team. Hayes' career extended far beyond his turbulent early years. He continued to play at an elite level for many seasons with the Bullets, earning 8 consecutive All-Star selections after his trade from Houston. He was renowned as an Iron Man in the league, missing only 9 games due to injury over his remarkable 16-season career. Upon his retirement in 1984, he ranked as the second leading scorer and third in rebounds in NBA history. His enduring excellence was recognized with his induction into the Basketball Hall of Fame in 1990, and he was named to both the NBA's 50th and 75th anniversary teams. Most tellingly, later in his career, when he returned to the Houston Rockets for his final seasons, Coach Bill Fitch had absolutely not one bad thing to say about Elvin Hayes. Fitch even credited Hayes for teaching young players like Ralph Sampson what it meant to be a professional, a stark contrast to his earlier reputation. Despite his undeniable statistical legacy and NBA championship, Hayes is often ranked behind players with similar career numbers in all-time historical lists. This discrepancy suggests that his early reputation for being difficult continues to cast a long shadow, influencing his historical standing even decades after his retirement. Elvin Hayes' story reveals the complex interplay between talent, personality, and circumstances in professional sports. His journey from perceived malcontent to celebrated champion demonstrates that initial perceptions, while powerful, don't have to define an entire legacy. What do you think about Elvin Hayes' journey? Was he truly difficult or just misunderstood? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more incredible basketball stories.